it's really what being an adult means, right? To like face the struggling part of life and still kind of like to not run away from it, because life has that. So like to say, hey, there's still, I mean, like the fact that this person is dying doesn't mean that he's not a valuable friend to have and a valuable story to go through, which is kind of like also now from my side. Yeah, you start seeing that there's people that are prepared for that and people that are not prepared for that.
Hi, I'm Zach Newmark. This is Damn Yankee. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts for all the best interviews with the coolest performers based here in the Netherlands and those traveling through the country. Today, he is based in Amsterdam. It's Fernando Rodil. He is an amazingly talented screenwriter and performer, a storyteller who has an outstanding new show called Fer is on a Deadline. The show goes through this very tumultuous last year of his life, and he's going to talk to us about it right now. The show is coming up in Nijmegen in the middle of December, and then hopefully Fer is going to bring it on the road and maybe even to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, fingers crossed. Fer, thank you so much for joining us. It's a great show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my God, this is amazing because you're this show that you've just put on, it's such a touching and in-depth piece of work about what you've had going on over the last year. I mean, you've been, this performance of yours goes into an amazing amount of depth about an incredible amount of personal issues. Some of it also half naked. So just to get some people to show up for the screen, but yeah. I mean, this past year that you've been going through, is an incredible amount of ups and downs, and to be able to take that and turn it into a performance, I thought was spectacular.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's at some point it became a little bit. I realized it was a little bit of a necessity to do it, kind of like exposure therapy, I guess, like grabbing all these several sources of pain and turn them into something hopefully beautiful. Yeah. And
without giving too much away about, what happens in the performance or about the show, just in the past year, one of your closest friends passed away.
Yes.
From cancer.
Yes.
You were diagnosed with cancer.
4 months later.
And you broke up with your partner of 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we're talking a heavy amount of things going on in a year, that's a heavy amount of things going on in 1 year.
Yeah. That's pretty much what I think I can take. What I learned I can take throughout this year. But yeah, it's a lot. It's been a big lesson for me to, like, not a lesson, more like a demonstration to what extent I'm determined to be happy, because I wouldn't have known if I didn't go through all these things that I could go through these things and still be happy. And it was one of the things that for a while I was wondering whether I'm going to become this bitter person that is not capable of being happy anymore. But luckily, I mean, so far I haven't become that. And making the show, I think, helped in that sense, because the show is a comedy in many ways, and kind of like tries to make. I don't think I succeed at it, because I don't think you can possibly succeed at it, but I try to make sense a little bit of it, and I found some like snippets of meaning in the process of doing it, and also in the sharing it and being reflected back by the audience.
I mean, I gotta tell you, I think that's an unfair criticism that you're putting on yourself to say that you question whether or not it was successful, because I think you watching it, you found a great deal of meaning in it, and also I would say also found meaning in the senselessness of how many of these things were all occurring all at the same time. So no, I would have to disagree with you.
All right.
I found it to be, a rather successful piece of work that you put on.
I appreciate that. I don't mean it in the sense that I didn't find any meaning. I think I found some meanings, and even the fact like the how consecutive everything was, and how kind of like, because it was given to me almost like a story, one thing after the other thing and after the other thing, and everything having a cause and consequence, kind of like a very tight cause and consequence relation. So it comes with some meaning, but also at the same time, like there's nothing more meaningless than like more of an evidence of meaninglessness than a cancer diagnosis when you're young. Like the fact that my friend Marijn died at 32, there's no reason for it, and there's no possible reason for it. It did serve me as a reminder of a lot of things, and also as a preparation for my thing. Mm-hmm. The fact that I saw him walking us through the process of his dying throughout his last year, and seeing him happy also, that was incredible, and I didn't know about that. And then right after I got my own diagnosis, and like this obviously things connected there. But there's like it's a double-edged sword to try to assign meaning to these kinds of things. So I think we need to, because we're meaning-making species, but also assigning meaning to a cancer diagnosis a lot of times turns into guilt, like blaming yourself or blaming someone or blaming. It turns into a weapon against yourself. So in that sense, I am interested in making meaning, because I think it's important for me to make sense of it and create a narrative that I can move on with. But I don't think I will ever exhaust it. And that's what I meant when I said I don't think I was 100% successful. But I got some snippets of it, and I'm happy about the things that I found, I think. And also there are conclusions or reflections that I think affirm the value of life, and how life is beautiful, and not they're not full of bitterness, which could have been a possibility.
How far, how many of these things did you have to go through? How much anguish were you facing until you got to a point where you said, you know what, I'm going to start writing about this?
I mean, a lot more than I thought I could take. Like there's when Marijn, well, a little bit in the show I go over it. When Marijn died, that really resurfaced my ancient fear of death. I had a big obsession with it when I was a teenager.
And you're how old now?
I'm 35, so barely a teenager anymore. But at that time, I was obsessed with it, and then I kind of throughout my 20s, I kind of could forget about it for a while. I still wrote about it, but in a more abstract way, and it was more a stylistic kind of like quest. I had it. I felt I had it under control, because I kind of like started thinking about my life, and I started associating the fear of death with stress, and that really helped to not think about death. But then after Marijn died, the fear of death just came full blown again. And then I was like, I guess my next show, I knew I wanted to do a new show. This is my second show, my storytelling show, and I knew that I wanted to do it, and I was like, I don't think I can talk about anything else than death. And it was right in that process. There were several, a couple months before the diagnosis, there were several other health issues that I was like, what is going on with my body, that had no relation with the diagnosis that I had later. But there was something of like my body kind of like bubbling up and telling me, hey, pay attention. And then this happened, Of course, a lot of pain there. The most painful part, I think, of a cancer diagnosis, at least being, having this type of cancer that is a chronic type that is not treated immediately. So I haven't gone through treatment yet. I will probably, most probably, in the next 5 years. But the most painful thing is the shift, the moment of transition in which you still want to understand yourself as your previous self, as someone that is perfectly healthy and death hasn't touched them, and realizing, no, you have to let that Fernando go. Now you are this Fernando, the cancer patient, like that to this day. I mean, it's gonna be a year in the December the 13th. And to this day, I still cringe a little bit when I hear myself saying I have cancer. And that was incredibly painful. And then there's the breakup, which is, there's many reasons why a breakup occurs. It's not just a cancer diagnosis breakup, of course, but it is a phenomenon in many cancer experiences of cancer patients, that the relationships rearrange, and a lot of relationships just cannot hold such a heavy thing.
Right.
So all of those things were a source of a lot of pain, a lot of bitterness, and I had to go through a lot of that and write a lot about. Like the first versions of the show were quite bitter, especially the breakup parts. Incredibly bitter. There's a lot of anger. There's still a lot of anger in me about it, and it was. Luckily, I'm being mentored and guided through by Mesrab's House of Creation, which is a production company that is making this show. And one of the things that Farnoosh told me, which is one of the directors of the production, Farnoosh Farnia, she told me, think of what you want the show to look like in 2 years. Because
what a great piece of advice that is.
Yeah. So that really kind of like gave me a very potent tool to edit stuff out that I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is just my anger of right now. I'm pretty sure in 2 years I'm not going to be, even though I know that the show is going to change, it's an illusion to think that I can make a show that will not change in 2 years, but at least to separate the temporary feelings from the actual like subjacent fundamental feelings that this is giving me.
It's interesting because, actually in the show, it doesn't really that bitterness doesn't really come across, the bitterness about the relationship ending. It's obvious that it was a serious shift for you. You're dating someone or at that time you're dating someone who was growing in her celebrity as a performer, who has since, sort of relocated out of Amsterdam. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that your words or the way that you wrote about it is spiteful in any way, in the way that it was presented on stage.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I try not to be. I think like in the because I sent you the tryout, I think, which is kind of, I did 2 shows. It was basically the show, but the first one was called the tryout. And there are some moments of some comments that I make that later I was like, oh my God. But also I kind of like laugh about the fact that I'm a little bit bitter. And like they weren't expected. They just came out of my mouth. And then I was like, and the audience was like, ooh, and I laughed. I was like, that's not part of the script. I'm so sorry. But like after that, I was like, oh yeah, I can play out a little bit of bitterness as long as I'm in control of it. As long as I kind of like point at it and I laugh about the fact that I'm a little bit bitter. Because then it puts the emotion out there without validating the emotion. It is a valid emotion, but it's not the emotion that I want to stand by,
I know the line that you're talking about, and I don't want to necessarily blow it in case you actually shape it in as part of the script as the show goes on.
I don't think I will.
No,
I
don't. Then you should say the line, because the line was actually quite funny, and I felt the line came from such a moment of honesty at that point in the performance.
Yeah. I mean, I say that yeah, like I explain why the relationship ended, and like the explanation as it's written is she's a very successful she's a very talented and successful performer, and because she's very successful, she travels all around the world, so that makes it hard for her to be present. But I said it wrong. I said she's a very successful and also talented, but then I realized I need to say successful at the end because, and then it came out like she's very successful and also talented, but mostly successful. And then immediately I went, whoa, and I was like, no, wait. I thought I was ready to talk about this, and then it kind of like laughed it off. But of course, I know she's very, very, very talented.
I mean, I've got to say that moment, it was like such an honest Freudian slip. It felt like in that moment that, you know, almost, I understand if you're taking it out, but it felt like such a real moment.
Yeah.
You know, and the way that you laughed about it also came across that it was a slip of the tongue. It wasn't serious, but was it serious? You know, and I don't know. I kind of.
I mean, yeah, I want to play around. I want to play around with those kinds of things. Like maybe it comes back. I don't know, but that specific one, I was kind of like, yeah, but if I do it again, it's not gonna be natural, right? At that moment was a thing that just fell out of my mouth. But if I do it again, then it's an intentional thing. And even though if I laugh about it and I make comments about it, then I present it like it's as a benign show of bitterness, right?
Right.
But we'll see. I think bitterness is part of the experience too, and there is something to look at there, for sure. But it was important for me. There were a lot of like talking about my relationship was slippery territory that I didn't know if I was ready for, and then eventually I made the decision that I should, because it was a very important part of this year. It was a very important source of pain, and this show is about how I handled this year's pain. I think one of the most important things, I think there's two things that I really took into consideration there. One is putting the focus on my feelings, not speculating about what's going on in her mind. Just talk about her actions, and that's it. And the other one is to not strip the moments from their emotions, because I'm doing comedy, so that usually is just taking distance from the.
You know, you've talked about your relationship with your ex, and you know that she was kind of the reason that you relocated to Amsterdam in the first place. How exactly did that play out? Because that was in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. You were living in Argentina. She's not Argentinian herself. So, you know, what actually happened there that brought you over to the Netherlands?
So she is American, but she was studying here in the UvA. And
at the University of Amsterdam.
University of Amsterdam, right. And she was on an exchange program. She went to Buenos Aires. She had different cities to choose, but she chose Buenos Aires because of its comedy. There's a big comedy scene in Buenos Aires. So she went to Buenos Aires, and I have a lot of comedian friends, and I went to one of these shows, and she was sitting right next to me, and we started talking, and we went from there. By then she was there for 3 months, then she was staying for 3 more months, and over the course of those 3 months, we fell in love. That was 2019, the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. So I have a Spanish citizenship. I always wanted to live in Europe. So I was like, maybe this is my chance, kind of like not my chance, but more kind of like, this is the thing that pushes me. But I wasn't supposed to come to Amsterdam. I was supposed to live in Spain, and maybe that, we can do a long distance, but a little bit shorter distance. And then the pandemic happened, and all plans went to shit, and people in Spain was like, you come with a job? I was like, no, don't come. don't come to Spain.
Right.
And I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And then I was like, well, maybe Amsterdam. I didn't speak English very well by then also, kind of like I could
Really?
I could understand it, but I couldn't speak it. I now I am very fluent because my relationship was in English too.
It's amazing.
Kind of like, through arguments, trying to win arguments. That's how you learn. And then but I came here. I barely I knew of the Netherlands, of course, but I didn't even research much about it. I knew about the weed, I knew about the windmills, and that was about it. To the point of I was taking a train from the airport Schiphol to Oost, where we lived in the beginning, and I was like, where are the mountains? This is Europe, right? Really, this is the same as Buenos Aires, plain. And I was like, yeah, of course, the Netherlands. And I learned.
Now you know
quickly.
what nether means.
Yeah. So that was how I got here.
I mean, it's such a chaotic time to move here. There must have been a moment where you were where you must have thought you were out of your mind and made the worst decision ever.
Yes, consistently. There was only one plane going out of Argentina, a charter plane. It was the most expensive thing I paid for in my entire life. Mm-hmm. I was living in pesos by then, dollars was something like what? And it was $1,000, just a one-way ticket to Miami, because that was the only plane that was going out. But my ex is from Miami. Her family was there, so we met there. Mm-hmm. Then I traveled to Portugal, but right before I was traveling, they started with the PCR testing thing. And we had to, in the day of the flight, we had to look for a PCR in a city that didn't even know what a PCR was. We got a test. We paid for it. We did it. Then they told us it's not a PCR. And we were like, what? No, but it's gonna work. And then it kind of worked. I had all kinds of trouble until I kind of when I passed the line in Portugal, that was the layover. Once I entered Europe, I was like, oh, it's done. And then life started, obviously, and then that brings their own life here started, and that brings their own learning how to speak in English, also building a relationship from the beginning, kind of hanging from a person because she was my only person here. Mm-hmm. So that brings a lot of trouble. Also, there's many things. Best decision in my life.
Did you have you had contact with her about this show at all?
No.
Are you going to?
I mean, I hope so. Yeah. Yeah. I hope. I mean, she has been a very important influence in my life as an artist, and I think I was in hers too. So I would love for us to find each other down the line and be able to talk about these things for sure. But everything comes at its right moment.
Was there a point in time that as a screenwriter, because you know, that's kind of how you describe yourself professionally, is as a screenwriter who's worked on shows on HBO, on Amazon, a whole variety of work, a really wide body of work. And was there a moment that you're going through these experiences where you realize that it's almost a 3-act structure in a way, where you've got, you know, one crisis happens, another crisis happens, another crisis happens, there's a turning point in there, and all the while, you know, with the show that you wrote is this theme of hard deadlines versus soft deadlines. And I mean, it's in a way, it's like a perfect 3-act structure in terms of how you wrote it. Was there a moment as a screenwriter that you thought that?
I mean, I always think of as a storytelling show as a script, and I kind of I really like the classic 3-act structure. I mean, I really like it's kind of I recognize its fundamental importance in how we structure things. So I always use it. But in this case, it just came kind of I entered the process wanting to just having a little bit more mystery, because usually I'm very I have a procedure and I have a structure, and I use the classic structure to guide me all the time. And in this case, I wanted at some point to become shapeless. To see if what shape came back with. So at some point, like, the relationship wasn't part of it, and I was trying to see how I make sense of it. At some point, like, there was a whole version of the show that was me trying to come up with a masterpiece before I died. Yeah, Marijn wasn't part of it until later in the process also.
No kidding.
Yeah, and now he's a fundamental part.
I mean, his story really. His story is really what pulls everything together.
I think
also
so too.
To the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
He basically gave me the end in terms of meaning, in terms of if there's any message to take out. Like, there's some little scenes with him that really kind of like taught me something. But it wasn't. Also, I was kind of like, I don't want to be exploiting my friend's death for my show and so on. But then working it through, I realized, first of all, it's true. Second of all, I think he would like this because it has his sense of humor in it. And then his family came and his friends came to the show, and it was they have a foundation. Marijn was a storyteller too, and after he died, they created another shot foundation that funds shows and different production houses and so on.
Who was he in the first place? Because you describe him in your show as basically your first Dutch friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've been living here for about 5 years.
Yes.
Or so. So how did you even encounter him?
He was he got diagnosed cancer 3 years ago. And he decided to make a show because he was in a wheelchair already because of an accident that he had when he was a teenager, and he decided to make a show about those two facts, about how facing hurdles related to his body. And he was friends with Bashak Laik, which is a storyteller that we all know from Mesrab. I worked with her several times.
And just so people know, Mesrab is a theater and a production house that's based in the city center of Amsterdam, or
exactly.
The east of center of Amsterdam.
Yeah, it's my second home. Really, it's a storytelling house. People come from all over the world to tell their stories there. And and she connected us, and for me to direct his show. So we started working immediately, kind of like I dived through all his story as a teenager, of how he dealt with the fact that he was paralyzed half paralyzed from the waist down. And then the cancer diagnosis, which was also kind of like completely out of the blue, and going through the treatment and so on and so forth. And through the process, we started becoming friends. But also, he had this personality that if he wants to be your friend, he's gonna make it happen. So he basically took me in, and I was like, okay, yes, of course. Also, he opened me to his world, a beautiful group of friends, and he's also a screenwriter. He was a producer. He worked in a Dutch production house, we built our relationship. Like, it was a 2-year relationship. The first half was building the show. Then we did the show in the Amsterdam Fringe Festival. And right after we finished the show, they told him that the cancer was terminal. And then the second half of and that was kind of like a little bit of a hinge, in which kind of like we were colleagues that would really like each other and hang out every once in a while. And that was the moment of like, no, we're friends. And that is interesting to me, because I experienced that as a person that is like, I'm completely out of the cancer experience. I have nothing to do with cancer. I had my grandparent had cancer, but I didn't get to meet him. So I didn't have cancer around me ever. And there was this moment of like a part of my brain saying, run, because denial, like a person with cancer is an open wound and you don't want to stare at an open wound. And there's this other part who said, these are the things that we live a life for. These moments are when you have to connect. This is what's meaningful down the line. So I dove in, and we became very good friends throughout the last year. And I got to meet his family, and I was very involved in that process.
I mean, how much different is that for you as a person compared to the teenager who obsessed over death?
Whew, yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure as a teenager, if I held the same amount of, fear, I guess it's fear, and anxiety, and that I had when I was a teenager, I couldn't have dealt with it. But also, it's really what being an adult means, right? To like face the struggling part of life, and still kind of like to not run away from it, because life has that. So like to say, hey, there's still, like the fact that this person is dying doesn't mean that it's not a valuable friend to have, and a valuable story to go through, which is kind of like also now from my side. You start seeing that there's people that are prepared for that and people that are not prepared for that. And it doesn't say it's just one aspect of life. That doesn't divide people into good people and bad people, because there's so many. I'm pretty sure there's amazing caretakers that are not very good people. I'm sure. But the part that you're an amazing caretaker says something very good about you at the same time. But like I saw my environment rearrange, and the people who could deal with this, and some of them have a talent that they didn't even know that they had, came closer, and the people who couldn't deal with it just either faded in the background or took a little bit of distance.
It's also about the phase of life that you're in as well. I think with me, when I had a mentor who passed away, and I was probably in my early 20s, and I think one of my biggest regrets is not having spent more time with her in those last few months. And part of it was fear, part of it was wanting to remember her a certain way. She was this grizzled journalist, tough. And, I kind of held on to that and wanted to remember that. Yeah. And I think if I had gone through that even 5 years later, that I would have handled it much differently.
Yeah, and hey, that's just life for you. I think it's only fair that we fail at this, and then we are gonna be better next time. The finality of death makes it all so fucking sad, because it's like, you cannot undo that, right? Like it's the same way for me with Marijn. Like the moments that I said, because Marijn was kind of like, hey, can you do this for me? And then can you do this other thing for me? Like these kind of people who demand whatever, and then if you say no, he's fine. But like he just demanded, and there were, and also like he was in a wheelchair and had cancer. He played those cards like very happily. So many times you were like, yeah, man, of course, let's do it. Do you want to get a tattoo? You want me to get a tattoo in your name? Yeah, let's do it. Like constant, these kinds of things, like helping with stuff. Like, I don't know, he wanted to film a documentary, and it's like, I need you to be in Utrecht at 7 a.m. On Thursday. I'm like, oh, okay. And the times that I said no, sorry, I cannot do that. Like after he died, I was like, oh, God, I cannot. I really want to go back in time. Because that was an opportunity that I missed of connecting with him. But that is how life is gonna work. You cannot beat yourself too much over that. You can beat yourself a little bit, but but not too much, because you're gonna fail at this. And like as a cancer patient, I I expect people to fail, and they do all the time. And I'm not even I don't show the visible traits of a cancer patient, and it's still kind of like people who take it overly seriously, that hurts. People who make one joke, that's great. 2 jokes, 3 jokes, 4 jokes in the same night, that hurts. Because you see the tension, and you see how you're perceived as an open wound. But I realized after a year of this, and let's see what are my conclusions in a year, but I realized that I cannot close the doors to people because they fail, because they are going to fail. And also I was on their side before. So I have this vantage point of like, oh no, I saw how it looks on the other side. It's hard. It's a hard thing.
How strange is it for you going through that here in Amsterdam? Seeing, you've been living here for about 5 years. You came here because of your relationship.
Yeah.
And now the relationship's not there. And this friend of yours has passed away that you were close with. So, what is that like for you going through this experience here as opposed to in Buenos Aires, where you're from?
There's so many layers to that, because there's the part of the friendships and so on. There's like, okay, so what is my support system now? Because I need one, even though I don't go through treatment or anything. I need a support system. But luckily that kind of like the relationship kind of like faded off in that way, and like the friends started kind of like surfacing and taking the role of support, basically. And yeah, Mesrab is a place, like, the reason why, even if I was still with my ex and she had to move elsewhere, I would stay here because of Mesrab. Mesrab is my place. I worked there. It's my main creative platform here in the Netherlands. I found storytelling, which I didn't know about before I arrived here. There's not much now. There's a little night in Buenos Aires starting of storytelling, which Lara started, my ex, in Buenos Aires, and now it kept going. But I think Mesra is an important nodal place for me. But that is one of the things. Like, the support system is like Mesra, and then my friends that I made in improv community and theater and other I created. I'm really relying on my friends right now, and they're great, and there are many. That's amazing. There's my friends in Buenos Aires also, which I miss a lot, and I'm sure they would be amazing at it too, but I'm not there. And then there's the health system part of it that is very interesting, because of course there's all these jokes about GPs,
about Dutch doctors,
paracetamol and so on.
Cures everything.
Yeah. I have to say, and I'm not saying this is everyone's experience, because I heard different experiences, but I heard some people saying the same. I'm incredibly grateful and surprised as to how good it is. I knew that people said it's the most efficient thing and so on and so forth. I never experienced it, because like when the GPs are trying to take you out of the system. But once you enter the system, because there's no... Also, my diagnosis process was very fast. It was 1 month, I knew. Very swift. But once you enter the system, the amount of resources that you get for like the little amount that you pay for the yearly...
for your health insurance.
Yeah, for the health insurance and the yearly deductible is crazy. Also I don't speak Dutch yet. I will at some point, I promise. But
but another soft deadline.
Yeah, that I'm gonna probably push. And like the level of patience also, I had very, very good experiences so far, and I heard many people that did too. Some other people had it rough. Like, a woman in general have more of a, like, especially in the diagnosis process, have more of a trouble kind of like navigating that, because it's yeah, usually they're taken less seriously and those kinds of things. So my experience as a man was quite swift, and wow, the amount of the resources, I'm blown away, really.
How would that have been different
In
in Buenos Aires?
Well, I mean, in Argentina we do have public health system, so I would have had access to stuff over there. Not the amount of treatments. Luckily, there's a lot of treatments for lymphoma in available, but mostly in Europe and America and some other very well developed countries. In Argentina, there are some very advanced treatments, but not many, and like the access is a little bit restricted. So because they don't have enough money for it, and also kind of like we have a right-wing government now that is kind of like defunding the public health system.
Yes.
He doesn't like that, this Javier Milei. He likes it when it's a business. So it would have been, I feel also that is, I have the amount of treatments available that I would have in America without being broke just by the fact of being diagnosed.
Right. And for people who don't know, I mean, here you're spending €100 a month on health insurance and a deductible, of 350 or something like that, euros for the whole year.
And
so
that's it. And some treatments are 500,000 euros.
So you've said a number of times that you're not getting treated yet. And, people haven't really seen your show yet because it's so new. So what is the form of cancer that you're diagnosed with?
It's called follicular lymphoma. It's a slow-growing type of cancer that, because it's slow-growing, it's considered incurable, because when the cells reproduce very fast, then they are more susceptible to treatment, basically. But when they reproduce slow, their metabolism, I don't know how it works, but it's also considered incurable. There are cases of a cure, and they are developing things that have the potential for a cure, but as of yet, it doesn't have a cure. But because it's very slow growing and indolent, it's called, like no symptoms or very, very mild symptoms, it's managed as a chronic condition. So it is to be expected that I will go through treatment eventually, and it is to be expected that I will have a relapse after that treatment.
And then what are the treatments that you go through when you actually go through them?
There's now the protocol is watch and wait, which is a very ominous name for it's just kind of like, okay, what's gonna happen, which is a whole journey on its own. And then when the moment of treatment comes, there's a whole range of immunotherapies. So it's a type of therapy that uses your immune system, kind of like trains your immune system to find the cancer cells. So makes your immune system more efficient against the cancer cells. So now there's a whole range of that. Of course, there's chemotherapy, usually is combined with the immunotherapy. Usually, at least in the beginning, the chemotherapies are quite mild. They're not the kind of chemotherapies that we know of, like the movies from the 80s of people kind of like vomiting all around and bald and so on. But of course, they are quite poisonous. It's not a walk in the park at all. Then there's all kinds of different treatments. Now, one of the most advanced that people are saying this might be the cure is called CAR T cell, which is they extract some cells from your blood. They basically add some protein to the cells. They train your cells, and then they put them back in your immune cells, and those cells are attacking the cancer all around. And some people that have lots of relapses, which indicates a more aggressive disease, have had, and that is something that have had a cure, and
they've had more success with that.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you cannot say cure unless they reach old age, and then you can say, oh, I guess they were cured. But yeah, that's the problem of it. Also, it's such a long. Also, this is kind of like for a person with a young person with this type of cancer is 24 years the median survival. So who knows? It's there's a lot of uncertainties in this process. Also, the kind of like the interesting part is that it can go crazy. It can become aggressive all of a sudden. It's called transformation. So it mutates into a very aggressive type of cancer, and that can take you out. So it can be either like there's people who are like, yeah, I didn't have to do anything in 20 years. And you have people that is like, I've been going through treatment after treatment for the past 5 years since I got the diagnosis. You have all kinds of very heterogeneous experience. So you don't know what you're going to get. There's no way of knowing also. There's no tools yet to know which one you got.
So now that you're sort of faced with this uncertainty about kind of what's the road ahead, how is that changing your approach to life now?
Well, I lost my fear of death, which is a big one. I don't address it much in the show because it's I'm still processing that. I think that's for the next show in which I'm going to talk about the afterlife and stuff. I don't necessarily believe in an afterlife. That's not the thing that kind of like made me lose the fear of death, but it really kind of like changed my approach to time. I realize, or I kind of like now I have an actual feeling in my body that duration is absolutely irrelevant. Length of the time that you get, the quantity of time is absolutely irrelevant. And the way I see it, kind of like at some point, kind of like an image clicked on me is I'm not grieving the fact that I'm not present in every single spot in the universe as we speak. Why would I grieve that I'm absent for most of the timeline of this universe, right? Or that it's like, oh, I'm not here for 70 years, I'm here for 60. Okay, those 10 years, what changes? I mean, of course, there's opportunities to have more experiences, but that is trivial at the end of the day. Also, yeah, I guess seeing Marain being happy and now understanding, I think I understand why. I saw myself at some point saying, like, if they told me I have 4 years left, 2 years left, I know that I would be able to be happy. Of course, I would go through a process of a lot of pain, but that's the transition period until you accept that this is your journey now.
But it's interesting that you've kind of come to this acceptance in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah. But that's because I faced it head on. I wrote a show about it. It was quite immediate. When they told me, I didn't have. I joke in the show that I had a moment of denial. That I said, "No, I don't have cancer. I don't have cancer." That didn't really happen. That kind of like I wanted to paint denial. I mean, there was denial, but there is still denial. Denial is actually quite useful. You cannot be constantly facing it. Every once in a while, you have to forget about it.
Yeah.
But you need to dose it. But from the moment of the diagnosis, like they gave me the diagnosis, I was like, okay, what next? Okay, what next? Okay, what should? And immediately going to read everything about it until I understood the disease as comprehensible as I could, and after that, kind of like reading about the cancer experience and so on, and I felt I took it all in. Now I don't research anymore. I don't read statistics anymore and those kinds of things because I think I need a break also from all of that. But I think in a big part, the fact that I faced it head on was the reason why it's not been a year yet. It's about to be a year, and I feel I'm pretty much on my feet about it.
Are you a person normally? So normally is such the wrong word. I would say through, the pre-cancer phase of your life, were you the type of person that set very clear goals and things that you wanted to accomplish and then you went towards them, or were you, more the type of take it as it comes type of person?
Yeah, the second one, definitely.
And then what are you like now? Are you finding goals and going towards them because, who knows what happens down the road, or are you still that kind of take it as it comes kind of guy?
That's a very good question. I think I think it's more useful, or not useful, but more comfortable to be take it as it comes when you're giving these kinds of things. The evidence that everything you plan for can be broken apart very easily. The fragility of all of our plans. But at the same time, our plans are kind of like what may give meaning to our lives in a big way. So there is both. There is a part of me that doesn't. For instance, having children is a big one. Like I was like, what does this mean for me in terms of having children? And I always wanted to have children, but I never kind of like planned for it. I was like, if they come, they come, basically. And at this point, I'm faced with a question, and I'm like, I don't know, because there's much more uncertainty for me down the line. And I know also that all the level of how comfortable I got with the fact that I have this disease has to do with the fact that I don't have anyone attached to me that depends on me, and so on and so forth. If I get into that, I know that there's a lot of, I know because I have friends who are parents, and like immediately your mind changes, and it's like you are scared for you're scared of not being there for your child and those kinds of things. So that would bring a lot of different shades of pain, but also maybe that is an experience that I want to go through. So that is an example of like how you deal with it. I think I still need to make plans because I'm not dead yet. So I want to achieve stuff. And achieving stuff requires some planning. So I want to make plans, but it's important that you don't get attached, that you, when you're making your freaking house of cards, then wind comes, it blows away, and you're like, that was always in the realm of possibilities, for sure. Let's just start over. It's important to be able, like, I think, like, for love also, for me, kind of like the fact that I saw a 5-year relationship break down before my eyes, and a person I actually call the love of my life, knowing that also that's something that you say, but that doesn't mean that that's gonna happen. Kind of like after I see that, I'm like, I can't wait to do that again. I know that it's gonna, my heart is gonna be broken consistently because it's open and it's an alive heart. But I want to build up this house of cards, because that's what it's all about, and the fragility of it doesn't mean that it's not important.
Do you still maintain close relationships with your family back home?
I talk to them. The diagnosis was also quite straining for, like, we always had a little bit of a difficult relationship, and I faced a lot of problems with my family because of the diagnosis. They're very far away, so it's hard for them to know how to support me. I don't expect them to support me much because we have a little bit of a distant relationship, but I have had quite bad experiences, especially with my siblings, related to the cancer. Basically, they which is something that happens to many cancer patients. People get angry at you because you are whenever you focus on the fact that you have cancer, which in this case doesn't make any sense because I barely talk to them, so they don't have to carry me around, and I'm not constantly, they know that I'm doing all these things. I'm living my life fully. I'm not kind of like on the floor saying, I have cancer, I
don't mean to laugh, just
no, but it would be kind of funny. But I'm not. I'm living my life fully. But then kind of like the little moments that you have with your family, at some point you want to bring it up because you need a moment to crumble, you know? I want to be a strong person, and I want to live my life, and I want to move on, but that requires you a little bit of denial every once in a while, and a little bit of crumbling every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
And your support system needs to validate that crumbling, not to validate the drama of it, not to say, yes, man, like, oh my God, your life is the worst, but to see like, yeah, it's fucking sucks. And okay, whenever you're ready to stand up and keep going, let's go. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm talking about my family, like, my siblings, and they are not prepared for it. The fact that they know me a lot and they love me a lot doesn't mean that they're prepared to deal with something like this.
Are they older or younger?
My brother is older, my sister is younger. But yeah, I mean, that was, I don't address it in the show, but that's another big source of pain and abandonment, my siblings. But
you say abandonment.
Yeah, kind of like at some point they kind of like chose to, like, we had a couple of big fights over me saying, hey, it doesn't help me that you're saying that I'm playing the victim, or that I'm exaggerating, and kind of like this kind of attitude of like, you're talking about that again, and I'm like, but we never talk. Yeah. And we had a couple fights about it, and like kind of like they decided, which was kind of funny, they decided to kind of like, look, we need to take some distance from you. First, figure your stuff out, figure out how we can help you, and then we're going to go and help you. Which I was like, but that defeats the purpose of help. If you cannot help me when I'm down, what is the, like, you're asking me to be okay so you can help me. But that just goes to show that there's not a lot of thought process in it. It's just kind of like an instinctive reaction of like taking distance to preserve themselves from a pain that I am not inflicting. My disease is inflicting upon them. And I'm just watching that unfold and saying like, but you're like literally abandoning me. You're choosing to abandon me at the worst year of my life. And one of the biggest sources of pain that I experience and many people experience is the level of gaslighting that the people say it's not because of the cancer. It's not because of the cancer. It's like, I'm not saying that it's only because of the cancer, but come on.
Was there ever a push to get you to come back to Buenos Aires? Was there a push for them to come out to visit you? Anything like that?
I mean, there was a little bit, yeah. My parents were like, maybe we go there and so on. I was like, no, it works very well this way, in which you are over there, I'm over here, and we see each other once a year. Still, like I was with my girlfriend at the time. But yeah, I kind of like work... my family, I love my family, and they're very good people, but it's family dynamics are different, and we found our balance in distance. Also, I don't want to go back to Argentina. That's the truth. I want to go back to visit, to see my friends and so on, but I really built up something here, and I'm happy living this life. So no, there was at no point I had the feeling I wanted to go back, and at no point they proposed it because they knew that I didn't want that.
You said that you have things that you still want to accomplish in life and things that you still want to do and that you want to make sure that you do. Aside from learning the Dutch language and possibly having kids, what are some of the other things that you are really pushing towards?
Well, I mean, there's I do a lot of video production here, and a lot of storytelling and so on. But like there's a lot of it that goes to corporate work or those kinds of things, and like a lot of the things that I developed myself in Spanish in terms of artistic actual development in English only happened in the storytelling kind of like live performance thing. I would like to develop as an audiovisual maker, as a filmmaker here more, and there's some projects to that effect, and also teaching is one of my favorite things. I teach storytelling in Mesrab, in the Mesrab Storytelling School, and that's something that I want to grow on. in Mesrab, outside of Mesrab, I think, yeah, it's so meaningful to me to open a door for people to explore their creativity. It's so fulfilling for me. So I would like to grow in that.
Is what you find fulfilling that moment where you kind of open the door for people, or is the fulfillment seeing what happens to them afterwards?
I mean, both. I think, I mean, I had it kind of rough in terms of trusting my voice and kind of like finding a mentor and those kinds of things as a writer. I kind of like got the opposite for a long time, kind of like people saying, you're not one, you're not a writer, you're not an artist. So, yeah, kind of like the things that I learned by kind of like smacking myself against a wall and at some point finding a little door and open it and so on. I just want to point to that door to people, so kind of like they don't have to go through what I gone through. And there's a lot of I mean, like most people, most writers or more artists, because sadly that's how it works, are frustrated artists, you know. So most people are like, yeah, but I never fulfill my full potential and so on. And you could have, if you didn't have maybe ambitions that had to do more of with your social role than your actual internal quest for your voice, right? So I kind of like try to guide people towards like what we're trying to do here is to give you a space for you to have a conversation with yourself and discover stuff and discover all the possibilities of beauty that can emerge from you, and not so much whether you are successful in this or that case. And most of the advice that you get it from frustrated artists, and that frustration is the thing that informs that advice instead of the actual genuine and loving connection with their creativity. So that's kind of like the thing that I want to take out, and just I want to point, no, it's this way.
Were you that frustrated artist at one point?
Yeah, definitely, dude. Throughout my 20s and as a teenager even, I was kind of like, I'm misunderstood, and I didn't write shit. But by then, it's kind of like you wrote 3 things.
So what are people misunderstanding?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you haven't done anything, and I was already in this kind of like pose of the misunderstood artist. Of course, I was a teenager, I was a kid, but throughout my 20s, also kind of like very slowly and I was so fragile, also kind of like very, very, very fragile, and like whatever feedback I received could really destroy me or kind of like make me feel I was a genius and those kinds of things. And it was just for a long time the thing that kind of like kept me going was the thing that the fact that people asked me to write. I wrote for theater for a long time, and a lot of my friends were actors, so they didn't have a lot of writing skills. So they were like, "Oh, you write? Can you write a play for me so I can perform it?" And that kept me going, and through doing a lot of projects that it wasn't my own thing, but I was kind of like navigating. I kind of like found what I actually like and what my voice sounds like, and those kinds of things. And yeah, I got some mentors, not many. That's a big lack in my life. Mentors. I would have liked to have, but it took a while, and some of them kind of like it was a very brief encounter with them. Now in Mesrab, I have quite a few of people that I really look up to. Farnoosh, I already mentioned her, Farnoosh Farnia, and Sahan Sahevidnani. Okay, so I don't know how to pronounce his Iranian last name. I hope he doesn't mind, but he's very famous. You put Sahan and you're gonna find him. And Rafael Rodan. These are the 3 creators of this Mesrab Storytelling School, and I took the course with them, and I kind of like that was a pivotal moment for me. Also, they kind of like took me under their wing, and they're definitely my mentors in this whole thing.
What was it that made you want to go from being behind a computer screen to actually being someone who stands up on stage and performing?
I did a lot of I started doing theater as an actor. I always wrote, but writing kind of like I connected theater with writing later after I did 2-3 years of acting. I always liked being on stage, but as an actor, I'm a little bit lazy. I don't like to rehearse a lot, and I'm a little bit of a liar. You know, I can convey emotions successfully, but I don't necessarily am feeling them all the time, which was a big kind of like thing. And when I was younger, it was like, I cannot cry. How can I be called an actor? I cannot cry. But I don't think as an actor I'm super skilled, but then I found comedy through my ex. Kind of like she introduced me to comedy a little bit. I was doing already kind of like my theater plays were always comedic, and sketch comedy I was doing a lot in Buenos Aires. We had a troupe of sketch comedy that we did very well. We won some awards, and then I jumped to stand-up comedy when I met my ex, and I enjoyed it, but there was something missing for me. Like there was something to like we're always kind of like grinding for the punchline that didn't quite fulfill. I consider myself a funny person. I like humor really is part of how I roll, but I needed to be kind of like I don't know. Stand up is very kind of like that is the whole point. I needed to be kind of like but I'm trying to do something else while I make you laugh. And when I found storytelling, it was like, oh my god, this was it. And everything has its thing. Like theater, I love the creating a fiction. I love to put images in people's minds and so on and so forth, like guiding them through a journey. But there's something of the relation with the audience that I'm missing there. Comedy has this very active, like no fourth wall. Let's just talk. I'm looking at you and everything. I'm roasting you and those kinds of things. But I like the style of it. I don't necessarily like so much, or at least of classic comedy. There's so many types of comedy, and then storytelling has I'm telling a story, which is one of my favorite things, and also I'm conveying them to an audience, and I'm in this relationship with the audience. And the whole point is this relationship with the audience. So it was kind of like the perfect amalgamation of all the things that I liked.
And you really found that here in Amsterdam.
In Masterclass.
And so, I think maybe one of my last questions is, there's a stereotype about Dutch audiences that they are engaged but silent throughout a performance. No matter how good the joke is, maybe you get a chuckle, but the real moment of appreciation for the performance comes at the bar afterwards. Is what some cast members from Boom Chicago have said to us before. Is that the same experience that you get, not as a stand-up comedian, but doing these hyper personal stories that you talk about on stage?
Yeah. Also, I have been surprised. I went to Ural festival in Terstelling. I don't know if you know, it's a big festival, and a lot of older Dutch people go there because it used to be kind of like a thing in the 60s, and now all the people that at that point were very young, now they still go to that place, and they are incredibly open and very kind of like vocal and so on. But also, my first experience with a Dutch audience was kind of like a year after I got here. We did a little bit of a theater play with my ex. It was called Training for the End of the World, and it was a very silly thing about climate change, but through a very silly lens. It was kind of like there were parts that were straight up kind of like theater for children kind of thing, with a polar bear and those kinds of things. Obviously joking, like a parody of all of that. But I saw myself in front of a full-blown, like very tall, white Dutch, kind of like very posh, silver-haired Dutch men and women doing a polar bear. Let's speak like this, and they were all kind of like this, and I was like, oh my god. We were both like, oh my god, this this is off. They are hating this. And we finish the show, and they come and say, I really enjoy that. I was like, but tell it to your face.
Right.
But yeah, you kind of like learn to expect that.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
All right. Well, again, your show Fair is on a deadline. If people want to go see it, how do they find out about it?
Mostly through my Instagram account, which is fer.rodil, RODIL. Also, through the Mesro House of Creation website. It's mesrohouseofcreation.nl, because it's a production for the House of Creation. So there's gonna be all the dates and so on. Now, we have one date now in December 2025 in Nijmegen, 13th of December, and next year, who knows?
And you're hoping to take it to Edinburgh, to the Fringe Festival.
We're still talking about it. It's one of the possibilities on the table. Let's see.
Okay, great. Yeah. All right, Fair, thank you so much. It's been just an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much. Likewise.
Thanks. Damn Yankee is produced in partnership with NL Times, the top choice for English language news from the Netherlands. Founded nearly 15 years ago, NL Times is now the #1 site for information about this country, featuring more news stories every day of the week than any other website. Keep tabs on the latest top stories, features, and breaking news from across the entire country, including the 3 big cities, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and The Hague. So visit nltimes.nl now and find out what millions of people are reading about the Netherlands. Damn Yankee is an NL Times production. The show is created by me and Peach Rizzo. This episode was produced and edited by Marcus Engel right here at 301 Studios in Amsterdam.